Okay. Um, Welcome, everybody. I just want to do a couple housekeeping things. So just if you could keep your mics on mute as the presentation's going on, and then feel free to unmute yourself to ask Victoria any questions that you might have. And if you feel more comfortable using the text chat, you can do that too. And then I'll watch and let Victoria know those questions. So I just wanted to welcome everybody today to so you want to start a food business, 10 things to think about before you jump in. And I wanted to welcome our guest speaker today, Victoria Watts. I'll do a little bit of a bio here and then I'll hand it over to her. So Victoria is an entrepreneur with 10 years experience in the food manufacturing, wholesale and retail sector, having experience with all aspects of running a business and building a brand from ideation to national distribution and everything in between. She holds an LLB from the University of Ottawa and has practiced law in the areas of labor, employment, and human rights. In addition to her role as CEO and president of Travola? Travola, sorry.
No problem.
Travola. Victoria is a mentor, a coach to many entrepreneurs, and also is a business growth advisor with PARO, Center for Women's Enterprise. She is passionate about empowering females to become self-sufficient and successful in all areas of their lives, and loves talking everything business. Welcome, Victoria.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And yeah, the name is Pasta Travola, and we didn't get Pasta Travolta, so that's a plus because I get Pasta Travolta a lot with our company. So thanks everyone today. I'm so excited to be presenting, and I'm new to PARO organization, and so this is my first webinar, and so I'm very excited. And today, my whole purpose is really to give you just some things to think about as you're ready to jump in, because Pasta Travola is over 10 years old now, but when we jumped in 10 years ago, we really had no roadmap. There were no mentors. We didn't know what we were doing. We came from, my co-founder and I came from totally different backgrounds. So we had to learn everything on our own, and we learned it through trial and error. I'm certainly, but I've seen a lot of things, and I do in this business, and I do have practical tips and advice. And as a BGA, that's how I approach all of my mentoring. It's really lived experience, and this is what happened to us. So let's just begin. So the first thing that I think that if you're starting in your business, the first thing you really have to uncover for yourself is, who are you? And for us, when we first started out, it was really, we weren't really sure. But for every entrepreneur, there is an aha moment, a reason for their being. And there's a reason why they jumped into business. So for us, our reason was that, we had lots of discussions about, well, we want to do this food business. What is it? Where are we going with it? And we had lots of discussions about being children with our Nona and our mother and making really great meals around the pasta table. And we're Italian, so food was a really big deal for us. And it was just about the simplicity of those meals and the freshness of those meals. And for us, that really served as the core around which we grew Pasta Travola. And that was the story that we kept talking about and going back to. And I think in food, what's really important is that real core, that key inspiration that started you off. Because I'm going to tell you, as you're starting to evolve and grow, it gets complicated. And sometimes you forget why you're even in this business. Why am I doing this? And our story about Nona and what we wanted to do, make simple, good food, was something that we constantly went back to in times of chaos and indecision. So when you have a clear sense of yourself and a clear sense of your values and your purpose, you use those as the parameters within which you can create your business. And it really makes your life easier, especially as you're starting to grow. Because when you grow, you often have to make decisions or compromises about, you know, perhaps the quality of your food or the taste of your food or about ingredients. But if you know that, for example, like in our case, we didn't ever want to add sugar. We all never wanted to add additives or preservatives.
Okay,
That we know that that is our line in the sand, and that's where we started. It really made it easy for us to make decisions about how to evolve. So, oops, my Bluetooth came out here. So the point here is that really think and meditate on, you know, on who you are, and start to pull out some of those values and, you know, your inspiration, because it will serve you well as you move forward in your entrepreneurial journey. So next thing here, and I can't see with everything here. Okay, so what added value do you bring to the market? I think this is a really important you know, topic, and we could do an entire webinar on just value. But you know, entrepreneurs have, I have lots of entrepreneurs who come to me, and there's lots of, as we all know, there's lots of really, really great products out there, and they all taste really good. And that's awesome. Like there's a lot of products that I buy, but I think the question that needs to be asked is, what added value are you bringing, or is your product bringing to the market? And what we're talking about here is things around, you know, why are you buying? Why should other people buy this product? How is this product going to inspire other people to buy it? How is it addressing a pain point? And the reason why this is the case is that, you know, there's lots, like I said, there's lots of great products out there, but as you start to grow, you know, and you're starting to widen your distribution, your product is going to be evaluated against other products in the market. So while you might have a product like a cookie, a really, really tasty cookie, you know, you got to ask the question, like, do we really need to have another cookie on the market? There's a lot of cookies out there. And that product is considered what we call in the business a Me Too product. Are you just a Me Too product? Or are you going to be able to add more value to the products that are out there? I'm not saying that taste does not, you have to have taste. I mean, if your product does not taste good, you're not going to really go anywhere. But you need to be having something more. And when you're thinking about, you know, your product and constructing your product, or what product you want to put out on the market, always have in your mind some of these really hot topics. Is your product on trend? Are you able to make your product certified in some way? Is it a gluten-free product, plant-based, vegan, organic? Is there something that will distinguish you from the other products on the shelf? Are you a new or a unique flavor combination? Are you adding unique ingredients? So right now, like chickpea flour is really great. Beets, something new coming on the market. And lastly, you want to look at things like, are you disrupting the category? I was just listening to a podcast the other day about honey and how this company is disrupting the honey category. At first I was thinking, like, do we really need more honey on the market? Like, no, we don't. But what this person had decided, and he's grown his business fairly large, is he decided he was going to focus on the honeycomb and disrupt the honey market by selling parts of a honeycomb as a sweet. And I thought that was a really interesting way to change a Me Too, potentially Me Too product into something that added value to the market. The same goes as I talk about, just having a great tasting product. The other thing that you need to be looking at is whether your product uses local ingredients. Really great. And I purchase a number of products whose core value is about using local. But the thing is that as you start to move out of that space, out of your community, and you start going across Ontario, you're not so local anymore, right? So you need to have some of these additional elements, some of these, being on trend, certified, all of those things I had mentioned added to your product, to grab people's attention. So who is your customer? This is something that really needs a lot of thought, because I don't think that in the beginning you really think about it, because you think, oh, everyone is going to be my customer. Everyone is going to love my product. And it really, that doesn't happen. It's very rare that every person is your customer, in the food business especially, because you can't satisfy everyone. Once you have your product, what you're trying to do as an entrepreneur is you're trying to, and in your food businesses, you're trying to find a synergy between your product and between your customer. So the way you do that is to actively seek out ways to discover who your customers are. So for my co-founder and I, what we did was we set up booths at local farmers markets. And farmers markets are ideal ways for food entrepreneurs to discover who their customer is. And not only that, but once they know who their customer is, they're going to be able to understand what motivates their customer to buy. It is a great, great venue if you are starting brand new with a product to start at farmers markets, because you have face-to-face conversations with your customer and you can ask them those important questions. Hey, how did you like this product last week? Did you like that taste? What, was it convenient for you to prepare? And you start to take notes. What Paula and I did, my co-founder Paula, is we were really, really observant about what was happening at our farmers markets and in conversations we had with people every day. And we actually started to build a Pinterest board so that we actually had a board that had pictures of our ideal customer. So we knew exactly the demographics. We knew that they were family. We knew that, it was a female. Most of our customers are female. We knew what they liked, what they didn't like. We put this all out on a board, and it was something that we referred to often when we were growing and developing new product ideas. Another thing that I do, and I'm sure people think that I'm really crazy, is that I kind of stalk people in grocery stores. So I'll watch what people are doing. I'll see what they're putting in their basket, and sometimes I'll stop them and I'll say, hey, I've noticed that you picked up this sauce. Can you tell me a little bit about it? Like, have you had it before? And sometimes I'll throw in and said, have you tried pasta Travola sauce too? Because it's a really good sauce, it's a great sauce. I think you should try this one too. They don't know I'm the owner, of course, but I'll start up conversations with people in grocery stores. But I'm really observant about where people are congregating and what they're picking up, because you can glean a lot of information about food trends, about what people like and what they don't like. So that's another way that you can get information about who your customer is or potentially will be. You can also do interviews. We've done surveys. We've done SurveyMonkey. We've done lots of different ways. We also did taste circles for our products. So we had about 50 to 100 people. Some of them were suppliers, some customers, and we sent out new products to everyone and then just asked them questions, about convenience, about, would you buy this product? How easy was it? How did it taste? Was this a taste that you liked? Any way that you just constantly have to seek out ways to find out about who your customer is, because in the end, If you know who your customer is, it focuses your efforts, reduces your time and your energy, and it ultimately saves you money. In food business, like, time is money. You're looking at efficiencies. That's what you want. And when you are very clear about who your customer is and how your product meets the needs of your customer, it's love, right? There's nothing worse than going after customers that just see no value in your product. It's quite demoralizing. So get that down, and you'll start getting some traction. So the next thing, which we learned very early on, was stay in your lane. So when you start a food business, and I think often a lot of entrepreneurs do this, but you kind of want to be everything to everyone, and you take on, there's all these opportunities out there, and you take them all on. And some very wise person said, and I don't know who it was, but they said to me, like, there's so many opportunities. Every opportunity is seductive, but it doesn't necessarily mean you should take on those opportunities. And I remember early on in our pasta Travola, like first couple of years, we took on every opportunity. And, we made good food, and we had a retail shop, and we had people who wanted us to make biscotti for them and wholesale it, and bread and breadsticks. We did everything. And I think after about a year or so, it like we were burnt, and we really weren't making a lot of money. So we really had to step back and review what we were doing and ask ourselves, what do we want to be known for? And what was really, when we evaluated everything we were doing, we realized that we're really known for our pasta. I mean, pasta's in our name. This is what we're really good at. Let's just stick with that. And that's how our line of ravioli started to gain traction. So, we had lots of requests from people to do this for us, do this for us. Can you do this for us? And we really had to be very clear on what we did and what we didn't, because we knew we couldn't be everything to everyone. But once we decided upon that, then things in our business shifted. It doesn't mean that down the road, you're not going to be able to expand your business to include, other lines, other products. But I think in the beginning, in order for you to start building and gaining traction, for us, we had to stay in our lane. And it was our ravioli that was kind of our crown jewel, and has really helped us make our mark. So packaging tune-up, I think packaging is, packaging is something you really need to think about. And I think it's something that's often put on the shelf. And I know literally, but it's often something it's like, yeah. I'll just find something, kind of suitable. But it's really something that you need to put your mind to. Packaging is part of marketing for sure, but it's also about maintaining the integrity of your product. And I think, with new emerging brands, and we've all done this. I mean, we do this, right? We try to do things on the cheap. And I think packaging is one of those things that if you have investment dollars or you're going after a grant, this is one of those things that you should put that money towards. So the first thing is that your packaging, it has to be presentable, and it has to be attractive. The Ziploc bags with tape are just not going to cut it. Maybe in your local, maybe for a couple of your friends, and, maybe your local store, it might seem quaint, but as you start to develop, you want to develop trust in your product. And as you start to evolve and grow, that's not going to cut it. Food safety is huge, is a huge topic and consideration, especially around COVID time. Food safety is huge. And we're lucky enough to be in a country where it's really, our food safety system, our supply chain is is very much upheld. But it starts with your packaging, right? Like, you want to show people that, hey, we're a real brand. We're not just, we're not just deciding to do this. Like, we're a real brand and we want to go places. So at first it has to be presentable and it has to be attractive. The packaging also wants to be, you want your packaging to be suitable for your product. So there's lots of considerations here for you to think about. So if you're doing, not all packaging is one size fits all. So if you're doing, and we learned this the hard way, I'm telling you, you have to make sure that your packaging is, maintains the integrity of your product. So if you're going to be a frozen product, you have to make sure that the packaging that you have is not toxic to your product, that can sustain the cold temperatures, that your labeling won't, your labels won't fall off because it's so cold. We've had all these things happen. And, we've had labels that they couldn't withstand the lights that were in the fridge and the freezers on grocery shelves, so they would start to fade. These are all things that when you're working with and you're looking at packaging and you're working with packaging companies around the materials, you have to make sure that it's right, that your materials are right, because it's just going to look horrible on the shelf. You're going to lose the trust of your retailer, and your product will probably be sent back and it becomes waste, and you potentially will have to pay for that. So proper nutritional fact labels and ingredients lists, lots of questions around this. And, there are experts. I am not an expert on this, but as you know, food is highly regulated, and there are so many intricate rules around so many different products. There are, lines out there that you can, like programs out there that will allow you to create your own nutritional fact labels and your own ingredients list. And we did that, because like I said, you're always looking for the cheapest option, right? But we just found that it never served us well. Things change so often that our nutritional fact labels were never proper. They weren't capturing allergens, so many things that we finally just decided, that's it, we're going to do this properly. And my best advice for food entrepreneurs is that they don't do this part themselves, that they actually get a third party person to do this for them. So this is another place, like I said, this is where you should be putting your investment dollars on having proper nutritional fact labels and ingredients lists. When you're small, you're under the radar. But as you get larger, people are really starting to look, and especially now, actually, people are starting to look at your nutritional facts and ingredients lists, and they're actually reaching out to brands about them and making them accountable. So instead of taking it on yourselves and trying to figure out all of the regulations, we have invest in someone who is specialized, where that's their business, to know the legislation and to ensure that your packaging and your nutritional facts and ingredients lists are correct. The last thing is about barcodes. Barcodes, don't always need them when you're starting off, but you most certainly need them if you are intending to become a packaged good on the shelves of big retailers. I think once you start getting to, 20, 30 retailers, that's when you really need to start thinking about proper barcodes. You can purchase barcodes off of, buyabarcode.com, and that's how we started. And that worked when we had, a handful of customers. But as we started to grow, there was pressure, there was a need to standardize our barcodes and work with GS1, which is a universal barcode company. It's a universal kind of language that all retailers can subscribe to. And what it does is it takes your product and matches it with a code not your product, but your company, and matches it with a code. So if you subscribe to GS1 barcoding system, you actually get a code that identifies your company, but it can be used worldwide. And this is it's a standard of barcoding that all major retailers require. And yes, there is an investment on this, but it's staggered depending on how much money you make. So, you know, if your aspiration is, I want to grow this business and I want to, you know, get onto big retailer shelves and have more than 10 customers, then I would say really look at the GS1 system, and you can reach out to me and I can help you navigate that. But, you know, I would say starting from the beginning, that's maybe where you want to start off with proper barcodes. Okay, so the next thing that you need to know once you have your product, you know your customer is, what you're going to do is, where are you going to make your product? Lots of questions around this too, I get all the time, and it's really tough out there because commercial kitchens, to build a commercial kitchen is very expensive, as you know, and my recommendation, unless you know you have the investment dollars, is to first see whether you can produce your product in your own house, because regulations have changed and have allowed for home kitchens. For certain products, don't even have to be in a commercial kitchen if it's considered non-risk. And if you're selling at farmers markets, there's certain regulations that allow you to just create it and sell it. And then there's also regulations that deal with just home commercial kitchens. So I always start my clients off there to see if that is actually possible. Next thing is that you want to be looking for shared commercial space. So you're going to be looking for things like your local legion, your church, restaurants. Is there any restaurant in your town or your city that would allow you to come and produce? In a lot of bigger cities, there's some shared workspace available. There's some private companies. I know that there's some suppliers who have their own workspace, and then they rent out certain times for other suppliers to share the space with them. And so that's cutting down on their overhead. So it's a brilliant business idea. Business model. The other thing is that you want to be looking for food hubs. And across Ontario, there are a number of food hubs. I know in Eastern Ontario, we have two. So we have one in Swiss Falls, and we have one in Colborne. And what these are large facilities that have everything there, and they rent out space and time slots for producers to produce. And they often also provide foodpreneurs with other support. So like the nutritional fact labels, those type of things, they would give you those supports. So that's another option. If you're going to be going into your, building your own commercial kitchen, that has to be inspected by the health unit. You want to make sure that the health unit is involved from the beginning in your design of your kitchen, because there's nothing worse than having your kitchen set up and then they coming in and telling you need an extra sink, or this has to be moved, this has to be moved. One thing too, when we're with entrepreneur, like as an entrepreneur, you always have to be thinking about contingencies and thinking about future, right? Thinking about future. So if you're starting off in a very small space and like it's starting to get traction, you have to be thinking about like, can I create future capacity in this space? So for us, we always had in our mind that we wanted to have a facility and grow to become a national brand. We had no idea how that was going to happen, but that's how we started off. So when we looked for a commercial kitchen, we ended up buying a building with space in there that was underutilized. And we knew that eventually we would be moving into space, and that's what we did. So we started off with 1,500 square feet of just commercial kitchen and storefront, and then we added on another 3,000 square feet as we started to evolve. But those were things that, that was a decision that we made right at the beginning because we knew exactly where we wanted to go and we were able to make that. So that's something that you need to be thinking in your mind about whether the space that you're in is going to accommodate bigger growth, right? Whether it's a shared kitchen or not, you need to be thinking about that. And the third, I'm just going to say this, it's probably not relevant right now, but with some brands, like some new brands, they decide I'm going to just launch with a co-packer right away. And a co-packer is a facility that makes your product on your behalf. So when we started off, that idea, like it just seemed so foreign to us. We had no idea what a co-packer was or what they could do. But co-packers work with certain brands. If you have the investment and you know that your brand is innovative and that you're going to need a lot of capacity, co-packers are a great option, as a business model, as to where you're the brand and you have someone else who makes your product on your behalf to your specifications. So the next thing is, how will you deliver your product and when? So, and I laugh at this because this is this is very real. This pain point is very real. And even to this day, we always have problems where we want to open up into different markets and it seems so easy. It's like, oh, we can do this. We can just, we'll do this and we'll change the pack side and we'll be able to get into this new market. But then we're stopped because we have no way of delivering the product. And I think as entrepreneurs, we get so excited and, it's like, oh, when I'm going to sell it here, I'm going to sell it here, and sales are going great. But if you do not have a well thought out system, logistics system, and know how and when you're going to deliver your product, it's just not going to work. I have to say, this is one of the key points in in building a brand. If you do not have your distribution in place, your brand is not going to go anywhere. So, and it really, how you deliver your product really is going to depend on the game that you have decided you want to play. And there are big consequences. There are pros and cons to the game that you're going to play. So if you have decided that you want to create a product or your product is going to be sold online, that's great. That's a pretty easy, straightforward path system for how that's going to be delivered. You still have to think it through. Still need to have someone who's going to pick your product, who's going to package it. You need to find out the logistics of actually sending your product out. But pretty straightforward system of delivery. But if you're going to be doing a product that's frozen or needs to be in a fridge, that's a whole other ballgame. There's often a lot of expense involved in that, but you need to, so for example, you need to decide, do you need a reefer truck? Who is there a distributor? Are you going to deliver that in a reefer truck? Are you going to deliver that in a cooler? There's so many different contingencies, but you need to be thinking it down. It can't be just something that you just deal with in the moment, because if your logistics breaks down, you don't have a business. You don't have if your integrity of your product is, if it's not properly transported, the integrity of your product is at stake. So what you really need to think about is how the step-by-step process of how you're going to deliver. And it needs to be reliable, because sellers want to know how you're going to deliver and when you're going to deliver. And, if you decide you're not going to deliver for 3 or 4 weeks, or you're going to deliver whenever you're in the area, you might lose the sale. So the supply chain stability So when you're dealing with, when you're creating a product, you need to have a reliable source of ingredients. And often when you're small, you start building relationships with local farmers. That's great, or local distributors. But the key to this is that how reliable will they be? You're always asking the question, is this a sustainable business model? So if I have a relationship with a squash farmer, a farmer who makes my squash, what happens when that farmer has a bum crop one year? Do I have a contingency plan? Do I have another farmer that I can maybe go to? The same goes with distributors. You never know what's going to happen. So you always have to be trying to diversify your supply chain and make sure that you're solid on it. Are you going to be able to get the ingredients when you need it and the amount of ingredients that you require? Because if you can't, then your business is at a standstill, right? I mean, one example was COVID. I think it brought to light for so many of us, the gaps in our supply chain, right? COVID came and there were certain products that food entrepreneurs just could not get. And these were major products. These were products that were making, foodpreneurs money, right? This was their business. And so a lot of suppliers had to scramble and try to find other sources for their ingredients. So the other thing I wanted to just briefly touch upon is, can you scale up with your suppliers and your chosen ingredients? So if you are producing a product using, I use butternut squash because that's the example that we actually had. We always wanted to use local. Local was our key thing in our formative years. Like that was what we always use, local suppliers, and we continue to use local suppliers. But now we've expanded because we've grown. We've had to expand beyond that to we use Canadian suppliers. But butternut squash caused us a lot of problems because we were using local suppliers, but we couldn't scale up because we couldn't get it throughout the entire year. And the supply was just, there weren't a lot of people in our area making butternut squash. So it was a real problem for us. So we really had to do a lot of research in finding suppliers that would be able to source that product for us on an ongoing basis and in bigger bulks. So as we grew, we wanted to create efficiency and we needed bigger portions of butternut squash. Chosen ingredients, if you have a very specialized ingredient, two things here. If you have a very specialized ingredient, are you going to be able to source that as you grow bigger? Is it something that's going to be easily sourced? But the other thing is that if you're getting your tomatoes in a can, that works really great if you're doing small batches. But if you're going to be growing, can you get that same tomato in, say, a pail or a huge bucket? Usually they come in 5-liter pails, because in order to make that 5 liters, it may mean that you'll have to spend an hour opening up 100 cans of tomato. So when you're choosing your ingredients, you want to choose ingredients that, you want to ask the question, can I possibly get this ingredient in bulk or in larger sizes? Because as you grow, your time becomes money, right? You're looking at efficiencies. And when you grow bigger, you want to be buying in bulk and you want to be buying bigger quantities. You don't want to be stuck with a product that everyone loves, but you can't scale up because your inputs aren't allowing you to scale up. So making the sale, I think the thing is, someone asked me when we were starting and we were really into our business, we were making everything by hand. Like there was only 2 of us at the time when we started, and we were like, we need to get traction. We need to get more people. We need to go and make sales. And someone said to us, well, do you have a plan for making the sales? And we never thought about it. We never thought that making the pasta was an easy part, right? But actually doing the sales, like who is going to be doing that while we're making the pasta? So we had to have a meeting about who was doing what, like how is this going to work? And I think a lot of entrepreneurs forget about that part. Like it's all great, we can make the product, that's no problem, but who's going to go like sell the product, because you need sales, right, to make money. So I think you really need to understand your business structure and say, okay, well, I'm going to either make it like 2 days a week, and then for 2 days a week, I'm going to sell my product, or I'm going to hire someone to sell my product. You need to be starting to think about that right from the beginning, because you need to have sales in order to, move things forward, right? You need to have collateral. And what we mean by collateral is you need to have your marketing materials in hand. When you go out and you make sales to customers in your local, stores, they want to see a sales sheet and they want to see a price list. They need to have something in hand. And these are just like basic standard things that every foodpreneur should have in their tool case. They should have their marketing collateral. So their sales sheet, and on their sales sheet, you're going to have a little bit of marketing on the front maybe. And then on the back, you're going to have your products, you're going to have your nutritionals, your ingredients list, your barcodes, and you're going to have, some of the specs about your product, like how big your packaging is, what your suggested retail price is. And then you're also going to have your price list as a separate item that just gets more in depth into the dimensions of your product, the wholesale costs. But those are two things that they're going to want to see from you right up front. And they're also most likely than not going to want to have samples. So you'll want to make sure that you have your samples ready, your sales sheet ready, and your price list when you're going out to make your sale. And finessing your pitch. I'm constantly finessing my pitch, but you need to have some sense of what you're going to say and what you really, I always say, you have like, if you had 30 seconds, what are the key things that you would say about your product in order to entice someone to buy? So that's where I started. And you'll go in and you have a conversation, but you want to make sure that you're bringing in those key elements that are going to inspire that person or motivate that person to buy your product. And like I said, you're going to know when, with certain customers, it might change as you go around to different customers, right? You're going to build relationships and you're going to know what to say. So that pitch is always going to be finessed. And you'll get in your own groove of how you're going to pitch your product. It evolves. So managing the relationships. Once you have your sale, it's not enough to just have the sales. You need to make sure that you are cultivating relationships with your customers. And even as a national brand now, we constantly, I don't have as close a relationship with my customers on the ground, but I do still cultivate those relationships by sending them out personal emails, by sending them personal cards, personal thank yous, those kinds of things. And whenever I am in a town where I am able to visit my retailers, I specifically make a point to go and say hi. This business is about relationships, and we learned that a little bit later, but having those relationships, managing those relationships, managing expectations around your product lines, around when delivery, all of these things are really important. But you need to have that personal connection with your retailer. And it doesn't matter, if you have brokers and salespeople on the ground. I truly believe that those customers are your customers. And if they have a personal relationship with you, it's going to take you far. They'll keep you on the shelves. They'll be willing and open to listening to ways to help promote your product in store. And the last thing here too is getting the reorders. Like I said, it's, sometimes it's really easy to just get the sale, but it's not the sale, it's not getting on shelf. The hard part is getting the reorders. And what you need to do there is, you need to have a system or a way of following up with your customers. It's partly that managing the relationship and cultivating it, but also to be consistent with your interactions with them, consistent with, when you call them about reorders. So once I had, say 50 to 75 customers on my list, they were starting to, go beyond my local community. It was getting harder for me to manage them, right? But what I did, the one way, and I couldn't always be on the road. So what I did is I actually called them every 3 weeks. It was a 3-week cycle. And that's how I managed my sales. I would just check in with them, whether they liked it or not. And I was upfront about it. You want me to call? I'm going to call in 3 weeks. Yep, call. And they appreciated it. But that's how I managed my relationships, and that's how I got my reorders. So, because if you let it go too out and you let them call you, they're not going to call you. They're busy. So you constantly have to be on their radar, and you have to chase after those orders. And number 10, mindset. And I know that there's a webinar today about mindset, and it's really important. I think one of the biggest, the biggest obstacles or hurdles that we, or challenges, I guess, that we as entrepreneurs face is the battle of the mind. That is something that from the beginning, like you're constantly having to face your fears, put your, dig deep, right, to put yourself out there, because entrepreneurship really, it brings out all of your vulnerabilities. It brings out your strengths. You are pushed to your limits. And that is what I love about entrepreneurship, because I am living my life to my potential. I'm constantly challenging myself. But it's a battle of the mind. It's a battle of the mind. You're going to hit roadblocks and you're going to think, that's it. Like, I'm shutting up. Like, that's I'm done, and I can't do this. I never thought that I would ever run a company. Like, that was just something that was completely like something I never thought I would do. I mean, I had specific skill set being a lawyer. But now I have expanded my skill set because I forced myself to do it, that I've realized I absolutely love sales. Something I never thought I would do. So I'm constantly having to face my fears. A lot of it, fear scared me the most, but I did it and I can do it. And that was, just getting over that hurdle. Having a learning mindset, it's something that is integral to our business culture, is constantly learning. And the thing is that you have to be open. You have to know that I believe everything is learnable, and I think if you approach business in that way, then it makes it easier for you. And you really can see how far you can go as an individual, as an entrepreneur. I think finding the joy is really important, because there's a lot of unjoyful things out there when you're a business person. Finding the joy is really important, because there's lots you don't like to do. And we constantly have to remind ourselves about the joy in some of the little things that we do, and constantly going back to that inspiration piece that I talked to before. Like I said, being an entrepreneur, you're having to dig deep all the time. You're building resilience. Every challenge that you overcome, you build resilience. And the longer you are in business, so you get past the year 1 mark, you get past the 3-year mark, you get past the 5-year mark, it bodes well chances are you're going to be there in the 10-year mark and the 20-year mark. One thing you always have to know is that things will change. Things do not stay the same. You may be thinking like, I don't know what to do next, but things change almost miraculously sometimes, but they never stay the same. Set your big, audacious goal, your bag. We set our big, audacious goal, which was to become a national brand. And this October, we did it. And I'm going to tell you, I actually get emotional thinking about it, but it was not easy. It was not easy at all. But there was a point, I think at about year 5, where we always have this escape clause, in the back of our minds, where it's like, you know what, we'll just shut it down. We'll just shut it down. We'll always just shut it down, if it goes really, really bad. But that's not what we wanted to do, but we always had it lingering in the back of our mind. And I think one day we had this really transformative conversation where, with my business partner and we just said, you know what, we want to make this work and we want this company to become national. We're never going to talk about shutting it down. Never. And when we made that very clear declaration, things all of a sudden shifted. We became way more focused on, getting through some of our challenges and solving it and creating a road to our success. And we started to network with people who could help us to get to where we want to go. But we had to make it non-negotiable. And once we did, we haven't turned back. And I think that's something that's really important for people, is to really keep that goal in mind and just go for it. Despite everything that happens, continue to keep it in your mind and go for it. And number 10 is just bonus. And it's what we're doing today. We're networking. Like I said, when we started, there wasn't this ecosystem of support for female entrepreneurs for networking in the food business. But right now we are in a great time. This is a great era to be starting a business. There are so many organizations that are here to help female entrepreneurs. And there's a lot of people, there are people that can help, and people are generally very open to wanting to provide you with help and assistance. And we've been very fortunate, but learning to network and getting involved in organizations, I think, is key to building your business, because you can't do it alone. You need to have a network of individuals with expertise, individuals who can provide you support through the entire process. So that's basically 10 things. I could probably give you another 10 things to talk about today, but those were, my top 10 that I came up with for this webinar. So I'm not sure, Lori, if you have any, if there's any questions there that I can answer, if anyone has any questions, but I did leave my email here for people, and feel free to reach out at any time.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much, Victoria. That was really informative and inspiring, listening to you talk about how the business has grown and, from start to finish. So there are a couple of questions in the chat here. One is, will it be better to have only one product when I start, or many after selecting one? And after select one product, so should they start with one product or?
So generally speaking, I think what you really want to start thinking about is the category. So you want to make sure that your products are in the same category. So you don't want to necessarily have, it's very rare, but generally speaking, I would say, like, if you're going to do a pasta product, for example, stay in the pasta category. Don't be starting off with, I'm going to do pasta and then I'm going to do bread and I'm going to do, I'm going to do a dairy product kind of thing. If you're doing a, a protein bar, you'll want to stay in the protein bar category, right? The health and wellness category. But within that category, you could have 3 options, right? Generally speaking, it's about 3 to 5 options within your category, because as you start to grow and you're going out, you want to give retailers your options. You're also going to discover what products people are going to be attracted to, right? So we started off, I mean, at one point we had 7 different products. Ravioli, that's what we started off with. I think we started off with 2 and we went to 7. And when we launched nationally, we ended up paring it down to 4, and 4 to 5 seems to be ideal. Not every retail will take 4 to 5, but it gives them an option. Does that help you?
Mary, is that okay? She also had a second question, was how much does label processing for one product cost? I guess maybe on average.
Yeah, so I would say, I mean, just for the nutritional fact labels, you're probably looking at about $130, $150 for nutritional fact labels. So the thing is that once they're done, unless there's any major regulations or you make any changes, like you got to remember that, right? Like you make any changes to the salt content or any of your ingredients list, it's going to change your nutritional fact labels. So
Okay.
You're looking at a couple $100.
Okay. And I think, Tweet, did that answer your question, or is that sort of separate? What would a reasonable cost portion for packaging?
Yeah, actually, my questions was to, like as Victoria said, we have to invest in a nice packaging, and it could be very costful. So what would be the right ratio to keep in mind? For example, it's a 10% of a cost productions or things like that, just to have some threshold.
So I'm not sure, Twee, what exactly you're at. I'll tell you, generally speaking, kind of cost for producing a package. So it's about, like, I would say to have it could be anywhere between $2,500 to $5,000, depending, really, to actually create a package, like the design and the concept. But that's from concept.
Okay.
Right. Oftentimes, I was just speaking with a client actually, and she actually did her own design brief. So she provided, I always say, as much work that you can do yourself, to prepare the person, that helps them, right? Mm-hmm. And your BGA can help you do that, but it helps them. And then you kind of give them a design brief about this is my brand, this is the tone, these are the colors, this is what I'm thinking. And then they usually, like the process is, they usually come up with 3 different designs. And then there's tweaking to that and you choose from there. But generally speaking, it costs about, I would say about $2,500 to about $5,000, depending at what stage. Does that help, Tweet?
Yes, thank you, Victoria.
Okay.
Okay, another question is, for a home-based selling produce, do you need a food license? Is one question. And if we decide to cook or season the veggies and sell, do we need a license for sale and the kitchen?
So you're producing in your kitchen and you're selling from a farm? How is that working?
Gabriella,
you want to just take your mic off, Gabriella?
Sorry?
Did you want to just ask your question so I just understand? Just give me a little bit more information.
Hi, sorry, just
no problem.
Dealing with baby here and stuff as well.
Oh, wonderful.
We are basically, we're a homestead that we're planning and hoping to sell our vegetables. Right now, we want to sell our seedlings so people can grow their own veggies. And then because my background is Caribbean, I'm from Trinidad and Tobago, and my is Canadian. So we're putting both of our knowledge about food together, where he has a farmer background from his grandparents, and I have a cooking background from my family. So I was just thinking, because from what I heard, with vegetables, basically you can just sell them if you grow it, and people can just stroll up to your house and buy it, or you can go to a farmer's market. But if we want to cut it up and spice it and have it like preset for a meal, do I need a license for that?
I'm not sure. Yeah, I mean, it's a really good question. I know, which area are you in?
Cochrane.
In Cochrane. Okay, so the best place for you, if you're to really get clarity on these things though, because regulations change in different cities, contact your health unit. You would probably be considered a farm stand, and I think it would be considered low risk. But like I said, the health unit, they have this information. Your health unit should always be your first port, like your first point of contact when you're thinking about going into food, and just saying, this is what I'm thinking about. Is there anything that I need to know? It is very interesting though, Gabriella, like, you're right? Like adding that additional spice, that all of a sudden potentially increases your risk. So the best thing for you to do is contact the health unit, and they'll be able to tell you right off.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, there's 2 questions here. The last one in the chat was catering and dinner ready businesses. Are you asking, Mary, if it's different? I don't know if she's asking catering and dinner ready, if it's different than.
No, what I'm asking is, you have, for example, a dinner ready. You sell like a package of dinner already. She mentioned that it's better to have only few products when you started. So in this kind of business is the same, or you can change the menu every week?
I couldn't hear a little bit, Mary, but I think from what I know about your business, you do ready to go meals. Generally, catering, yes. If you're doing catering or ready to go meals, you do have to have a commercial kitchen to be selling. I know there's a number of caterers here, just some chefs who do in our town. They do kind of ready to go meals, and they have their own kitchen inside their house. So they don't have a brick and mortars. They have their own kitchen. So I would say yes. But like I said, Mary, if you can always check that, but generally speaking, like anything that's going out, unless it's like usually breads and baked goods are things that are considered very low risk. But if you're creating anything using meat or cooking vegetables or anything like that, you're going to have a commercial kitchen. And like I said, it could be in your house. And sometimes those creating a commercial kitchen, it sounds scary, but it can easily be done. And it really depends. I'm going to tell you, it really depends on the health unit and who the inspector is.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, no Victoria. I apologize in advance. Fadia, I hope I pronounced your name right. Go ahead with your question. Fadia, do you have a question?
Oh, sorry, I was muted. So,
no worries.
So
hi,
it's about hi, good morning. About the food handler. In Ontario, in order to work in a restaurant or make your own home business, you need to take a course, which is 1 day, I think was 2 hours.
Yep. Food handler.
So to get this food handler certificate, it's valid for 5 years. And then you have to do it every 5 years. I can show you the picture. I got one, but it's expired. Can you see it?
No, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I think maybe because for the question that's the person who asked last about the food handler. So I think in Ontario, you should have this even if you're doing a home business.
Yeah, food handling for sure. Food handling course is really important. And if you have a commercial kitchen, for sure. If you're going to be hiring individuals, like employees, if it's going to be yourself and someone else, I believe there are regulations around at least one of the people have to have the food handling. I know they had some changes in the regulation about the farmers market, but they may even now require for certain foods for you to have your food handling at the farmers market. So it's always a great course to have, like in any event, that, like I said, your provincial regulator, so your municipal, like the health unit, they will be able to tell you that, because I find in speaking with different entrepreneurs in different areas, I find it obvious, often arbitrary, like it's not consistent among cities. So always go to your health unit and they will tell you exactly what you need to know. But the food handler course, I think if you're doing like a catering business or anything where you're reaching a lot more people or have the potential to reach a lot more people, having that is a good tool in your toolkit for sure.
Okay, great.
So,
Sorry.
So maybe somebody needed this information. I do the food handling before in person, but right now, by the COVID, I think everything's online. So you do only the course online.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure they do it online for sure.
Okay, well,
and sometimes you can do it for free, just letting you know. I know our food handling course here, through some of the employment agencies, they were offering them for free.
okay, well, if there's, the next workshop's going to begin soon. Sorry, I just want to say, if anybody has any other questions that they do have, please reach out. Victoria's email is businessgrowth14@paro.ca. I just want to say thank you so much. There was some great feedback in the chat. Everybody appreciates and feels very informative with these 10 topics that you discussed. So thank you so much, Victoria. We appreciate you presenting today.
No, I love it. Thank you. And please, foodpreneurs out there, if there are specific topics that you would like me to talk more of or do a future webinar, please reach out to Lori or to myself and just, and we'll start building that out over the summer. So thank you very much, everyone. Absolutely, for sure. Thanks again, Victoria. And thank you, everybody, for joining us today. And have a great rest of the day. Thank you. Thanks. Take care. Bye-bye. Bye.